Hello folks, today we discuss a RACI Matrix, a simple yet important tool. It is used by business analysts, product owners, project managers and many other roles. To begin with, we should start with the concept of roles and responsibilities. When you perform stakeholder analysis for your project, you find out that many people are doing many things. Next, you will notice that the same person could be performing one task, be responsible for the result in another one, and be the consultant for the third task. Same with the task itself. Some people actually do it, while others are accountable for the result. What else is you need to communicate the result or progress with even more people and check with specific person before proceeding. As you see, there are many connections between people and tasks that you really need to understand and remember. To help yourself handle this, you need a RACI chart. And first, you should understand 4 different role types. Let's start with the first one called responsible. Now, someone has to perform the task with their own hands. The task might be the part of the job description or something delegated. You can do the task solo or as a part of the group, but in any case, by doing that task, you become responsible for the job. At the same time, someone has to call the shots and make decisions. The same person will receive praise for the work done and will be chewed out in case things go south. These people are usually called responsible because responsibility means duty. But as you may know, doing stuff and actually being responsible for the result is not the same. That's why we have a separate definition called accountability. To show an example, let's pretend we have an intern and their boss. The boss assigns a work task to an intern. If an intern fails and harms the business, well, yeah, they might be fired, yes. At the same time, the boss will be one who takes all the responsibility for the intern's actions because the boss should have thought better. Thus, accountable and responsible are not the same thing. Responsible means to take actions, while accountable means putting your neck on the line. Because of that, one task may have many responsible people, while only one accountable person. Multiple people just cannot be driving the same car. The only case when multiple people become accountable is when they form a committee, because in this way they make decisions as a single entity. Now, consulted. These stakeholders exist to provide an opinion or information about the task. This role consists of all kinds of subject matter experts that could help the responsible to perform the job correctly. For example, when you model requirements for a user interface, you can discuss them with the UX expert to get an advice. Or when you specify the user stories for a financial model, it is a great idea to have a chat with someone from the financial department. Finally, there are people you need to inform about the results or during the process. In comparison to consulted, where you have like two-way communication, you shouldn't expect any feedback from informed. You just supply them with data about progress, decisions, results, and anything else that is defined by the process. For example, you want to keep other teams up to date as they dependent on your progress. Or your end users need to know when you release a new piece of the functionality that affects their job. Now that you know these 4 points of use, you can finally start having fun with the RACI Matrix. As you probably see now, RACI is an acronym for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. The idea behind the RACI Matrix is to create a chart in which you map your tasks and roles. The format I use in my projects is usually when tasks go as rows and I put roles as columns, and I have people at the intersection. You can work with the RACI Matrix in other formats too, depending on what's in focus. You can put people and tasks in rows and columns, for example. In this way, having roles at the intersection can easily show the job description for each person within a given project. The format I used for my example earlier focuses on showing which person has which role for each of the tasks. It is useful from the point of view of processes existing in a project and helps understand easily who should be involved in each task and in which way. Finally, you can use roles as rows and people as columns to focus on tasks instead of people. Now, let's make an example to see how the chart works in real life. Let's say you join the project as a business analyst and you need to understand the responsibility zones for your role. In addition to BA, the team consists of the project manager, designer, developers, technical lead, and QA roles. Also, many tasks usually involve the client, so you decide to add them to the matrix as well. What you want to do here is to sit with each of those stakeholders and go through each task to understand your relationship. For example, as business analyst, you will be specifying and modeling requirements, thus being responsible for the task. You will be creating clear requirements, providing them on time, aligning them on business idea, all that. At the same time, you will be responsible for the quality of those requirements and how good developers understand them. Thus, you will be accountable. If you add another BA later, you will need to decide who will stay accountable, or you shall divide the backlog and make someone else, for example, project manager, accountable for delivering BA services, which is also a common thing. Sometimes QAs help with modeling requirements, and in your case, they will. So you add them as responsible as well. Now, do you need to consult someone on requirements? Probably yes, probably some SMEs from client side or implementation SMEs from your side, like your tech lead, to make sure that requirements do not ruin system architecture. Put all those people into the consulted column for requirements task. As for informed, you may want to put PM there, as you need to provide them with a progress status as you go, so that make sure that you always have requirements for the team all the time. It is very common for BAs to have arguments and discussions with PMs on who shall handle communication with the client on which questions. Things like budget and timelines might be more obvious, while scope and technical detail issues could be part of BA's communication or technical lead's responsibility. Thus, you may want to write down every question that may arise and define who will be handling the questions and who will be accountable for the result. Maybe both PM and tech lead will be happy to delegate the discussion to BA, but keep the accountability and be consulted on each step, which is a great way. In this way, you go through each of the questions and fill your R and A's to visualize the decisions you made for the responsibility zones. With that, you can start your project and be sure that no one steps on each other's toes. You can use the RACI Matrix in different situations. For instance, RACI is a great tool for stakeholder analysis, showing the current situation in the processes of your client. You can analyze the process efficiency by seeing how many people are responsible for the same task, if there are too many people to be consulted, or there are multiple accountables all of a sudden. Besides modeling the current state, you can create the RACI chart for a new process. And this could become the foundation for new process modeling. You can use the RACI matrix for mapping your client business processes, your team responsibilities, and even as a starting point to design your access management system for the software. You can even go further, by the way, and apply the RACI chart in your daily life by describing responsibilities in your family, because that is how far you can go with a business analysis application if you really think about it. To build the RACI matrix, follow these easy steps. First, write down all the tasks and roles that will be part of your chart. Next, put them into rows and columns to your liking. Then, start mapping accountable and responsible. Check that you always have one accountable for each task and at least one responsible. Next, analyze how many responsible you have for each task. If there are more than two, you may want to optimize here. If you have too many people doing the same task, either this task isn't decomposed enough to have a single performer, or it is something fishy here, right? Too many people involved in one task. Continue mapping with consulted. If there is no one to be consulted for the task, it's not a problem per se, but you really want to double check here. If there are many people to be consulted for one task, you will probably be drowning in committees and bureaucracy, so try optimizing the number of people to be spoken to, not to slow down the project. Finish your chart with informed and apply the same principle as for consulted. With the last two categories, also make sure that you have enough people. If you don't, it probably shows communication problems and deficiencies within your organization or project. Finally, to make your RACI matrix not just an artifact but a living thing, make sure that everything you mapped works. Implementing the chart exposes problems in the process and allows you to spot the issues at the early moment. If you do some kind of audit, the RACI matrix can highlight existing problems and kick off the process of fixing them. I really encourage you to try this technique if you haven't yet. Believe me, the results will be quite interesting. If you like this video, you may check another one about the RACI matrix sibling, the CRUD matrix, or other videos on my channel. There is a growing library of career videos, tutorials, interviews, and other knowledge about business analysis.